Hello everybody, my name is Julian of Flow Graphics and welcome to another episode of Game Dev Diaries. What you can see right here is assets, and that's what I've been working on tons lately, is just making tons and tons and tons of assets. So that's what I'm going to show you today, is all the stuff that I've made recently, as well as some sneak peeks in the level design and what I've been creating for Len's Island, the actual island that you live on. So these are all the building parts. One of the key sort of things in Len's Island, as it's sort of like combining Rust or like Conan or something like that with Sims. You can build really intricate bases and make them your home and do all sorts of things. So these are the sort of the very basic sort of base building parts for the wood version and the stone versions of the base. These aren't, they don't really change durability or anything like that. It's simply just for looks. So there's just like standard wood walls, and then once you've placed walls, you can change them to different types of themes, walls or roofs or foundations, whatever they may be, for theming, just to make it look cool and to make it look different and to make it your home, because that's what it's all about, is making your home. And they look really cool in all sorts of sort of lighting conditions and stuff. There's normal maps, some of them have sort of different settings and things. And if you saw the weapons video where I made all the weapons, everything you can actually see on the screen right now besides the terrain is all the one texture, and it's also the exact same texture as the weapons. So like I was talking about in the weapons video, if you haven't seen that, check that out. I'll link it in the description. But it's all on the one same texture sheet, and it's really, really efficient. And then all of these items here, I've just started making a couple of little props and plants and sort of crates and all sorts of things like that. A couple of those plants are still using from a pack. I think those plants are really the only thing that I'm really using that I didn't create. Everything I started to create slowly myself from scratch, because that was always the plan when making this game. I wanted to sort of get an idea for the theming and use other assets and just buy things whilst I build the sort of the systems. And then as I'm building the game, I get a better idea of how I want everything to look and interact, and then I'll start creating things myself. So all of these trees have all been created from scratch by myself in SpeedTree. And I'll show you in a second sort of how they work. Leaves fall down and they can be interacted with and everything. The physics are still a little bit off. Like, obviously that was a bit weird. It's got a timer though, so there's a physics collision that happens. So essentially, if the tree falls, it detects a big collision, then it explodes. If it doesn't explode for some sort of glitch, it will just have a timer. But I also made tons of cliffs. So we have all sorts of sort of cliffs and rocks and things. They have little normal maps as well, so they have cool little bits of sort of cracks and specks that react differently in different types of lighting scenarios. But I try to make these work in sort of as many situations as possible. There's also a dark version of all the rocks, but I try to make them really modular so you can use them in tons of different ways. And I've already sort of filled out the whole level with these rocks, which you'll see in a moment when I step through the island, but they can be used in a lot of different ways to make level design really, really easy. So look, let's start going through the level and sort of seeing what I've done. So like you can see right here are some cliffs that are made using those rocks, and I've just rotated them and changed them and scaled them in different ways to sort of fill it out. But I've started to actually create the level and start to create sort of the theming for the game, and I'm trying to create little areas. I guess that's something I'm really focused with the level design for this island, is because you can build anywhere in the island, and you're going to spend a lot of time running around here, doing quests and gathering resources and hunting and all sorts of things, and also going on little adventures. I wanted it to make there's all these different little sort of scenes within the island, if that makes sense. And I want to try and make things seem different. It's not just like one big island that's filled with grass and trees, and it's just like one big forest and it all looks the same. I want areas to all feel different. So there's different sort of biomes, I guess you could say, on the island. It's not unrealistic, like there's not half the island snow and half the island's desert or anything like that. Like, it's all a forest. But there's different sort of, I guess, not climates, but just different themes. So if I go over here to this little island, you can see there's some birchwood trees. So these are some new trees that I've just started working on the past sort of week in SpeedTree, and you can see they look a bit different, but they're sort of the same theming as the pine trees, and they've got the really nice wind settings. That's all from SpeedTree. So look, I'll show you a bit more about how I actually created these trees, because I created them in a way that just makes it really, really easy for making any sorts of variations on the trees using SpeedTree. If you haven't used SpeedTree, it's amazing. It's a really, really good program. It's totally worth paying the $30 a month or whatever it is to purchase it, because it makes creating any sort of foliage for your game really easy, and you get really, really, really good results really quickly. You can see all the wind settings on this tree, But it's super modular. So, you know, there's like a trunk and then it's just all node based. So from the trunk, you can change all the settings. Like I can change sort of like the width and the height and the twisting and all those things really, really quickly. So I can make tons of different trees just by changing a couple of buttons. And then I can actually go into all the different nodes and change all the specific options based on the tree as well. So it just makes it super, super easy. Basically, when I created all the pine trees for Lens Island, I just created one sort of normal, sort of neutral pine tree. And then I created all the different versions based off that. So I can just click to the branches and then I can change some parameters to go, you know, how many branches are there? And then how are they sort of spread out? And what are all the different settings of the branches? And then I can change the thickness and the crookedness of the trunk and all sorts of things. So it makes it really, really easy just to sort of create one tree that's themed sort of the way you want it to. And then you can just play with all these values and then create all the different versions of those trees. And being built in SpeedTree has really, really good optimization settings. It automatically works out sort of like billboards and all the levels of like the LOD sort of settings. And the wind just looked really beautiful. It's really, really realistic and beautiful in SpeedTree. So this is the Birch tree too, you can see here. I textured them a bit. I don't really texture them properly in SpeedTree. I just simply use SpeedTree really to create the meshes and stuff. And I just put on sort of placeholder textures and stuff, and then I do it sort of properly in Unity. But you can see here, just with the one base tree, I can just change the number of trunks that are attached to the main trunk, and we can get all these different tree variations really, really quickly and easily. And then I could, you know, just click on all the sub branches here. If I want to change them, I could change them. I could change the leaves. All the different components are separate, and I've set them up in such a way that allows it really easy to customize, but it also makes it somewhat efficient. I'm trying to keep polygons down a little bit. What's really good for Lens Island is because the camera's looking down, I can make trees and things quite detailed because the game's only ever looking at a few of them at the same time. It's not like a first-person game where you're looking out to a valley and you're seeing 100 trees. But if we go back into Unity, you can see all the materials, everything is super easy to play around with. So I've sort of made everything so it's desaturated versions of those colors. So if I want to change the tree trunk color, or how the light sort of reacts to it, or how it's sort of the shadows work and everything, it's really easy. And if we go to the leaves are almost a grayscale leaf, like you can see here. So the reason I did this is because then I can set the color of all the leaves in the trees in Unity and not have to have all these different sorts of textures. So all it takes is just simply, if I go up here, we can just change the color, and then suddenly we have all these different versions of trees. And it's really, really easy to do. I can make it really saturated and sort of comic book like if I want, or I can make it desaturated. I can change the leaves to whatever color I want. And this is something I've been really thinking about whilst building all of these assets, is optimization, making it just really optimal and fast and quick and works well in the game, but also just really customizable, because I want things to feel different and interesting. And talking about different and interesting, like you can see these little pillars here that I'm sort of jumping on, I've been trying to also come up with ways to just make the island a bit more interesting. I don't know about any of you, but for some reason I've always loved like parkour and like little collectibles. And here's a little glitch where I've screwed up the player state machine. Okay, for some reason the player needs to, I'm about to rework the player state machine. So a quick update, by the way, is one of my old university lecturers that actually taught me how to make games. His name's Martin, and Martin is absolutely amazing. He's one of the best, most nicest, knowledgeable people I know. And he's now working on Lens Island with me. So this has been a solo project for basically the past sort of 2 years or so. And I got to this point where I've realized it's a bit too much for only me. So he's helping me out with the programming and the systems and some of the level design and all sorts of things as well. So it's been an absolute godsend to have him working on it with me. He's remaking the state machine. So that's really good. But like you would have seen, he sort of fiddled around with the background. I also want to talk a bit about lighting, because Lens Island's different because it's got a day and night cycle. It's really, really hard to do good lighting and theming when all of the lighting's completely dynamic. So like you may notice in the cliffs, there's actually this bounce lighting from the water. So there's actually this pale sort of blue light that's cast over all the cliffs. And this is essentially mimicking that reflection. You know, if you have something over water, the water's bouncing light and it's sort of putting like a light blue light onto whatever thing is next to it. If it's like a, bright sunny day. And there's a lot of things throughout the game and the level that I've had to sort of fake a lot of these, also for just to make it more optimized, because it's essentially like light scattering. But like you can see here when I turn it on and off, I've literally just placed point lights in front of the cliffs. so they look like they're actually bouncing all this blue light on them. And you can see it's a bit more obvious when I sort of change the lighting to this afternoon lighting here, and you can see it's sort of how much it actually affects it. But that's something that if you're ever making a game with sort of a dynamic day and night cycle, and then you can see here fireflies turn on at nighttime, and if I do it afternoon, it turns off. So I've really tried to make all the different versions of the sort of the level all look good. So it doesn't matter if it's 3 a.m. or 6 p.m. or 5 a.m. or midday, no matter what time you are in any sort of scene in the game, all of the lighting conditions always look exactly how I want them to look. And it's just something to think about. If you're ever making a game with a dynamic day and night cycle, you have to think a lot deeper about lighting and rendering and how level design works, because you can often use shadows to direct people and lighting, and in a game where that's constantly changing, it makes it hard. But talking about shadows, like you can see where I am now, that was actually the sort of the dark wood area it's going to be the entrance to the cave. So you can see the map here, sort of the section with all the sort of the trees, that's the area that I've actually worked on. And then in sort of this little hollow area down there, that's where all the cave's going to be. So it's going to be a more sort of deep, dense woods. And you can see if I zoom in, there's all these shadows on the ground. So effectively, it's all these different textures. This is just temporary. But I will use sort of a technique like this where I basically made all these like tree textures and then made them invisible to only cast shadows. So it looks like you're in this sort of deep, dark, dense woods. And then, yeah, here's this little sort of cute little river. But I'll show you a bit more of the level. It takes ages to sort of actually do all the level design in Lens Island. It takes a long time. One of the things that take me ages is also figuring out what to do for all these different assets. The grass has been a bit tricky because I'm trying to figure out different ways of making beautiful looking grass that's also optimized. So what I'm about to show you is, this is a grass package I actually bought from the Unity store, this lighter grass that I just turned on. And you may notice it looks a bit different, it looks a bit more sort of detailed, and also the movement, like the wind setting, is a bit more realistic, like it looks a bit more dynamic. So the trouble with the grass that I've got on the screen right now is it absolutely kills frames. Like it's unbelievable how badly it reacts to the game, and I've done everything in my power to optimize it in so many different ways. And although it looks really good, it's not worth cutting 10 to 20 frames just for grass. That's why I've gone back to the standard Unity grass, and I've tried my best to make that look as good as possible. And I think that's something too to also mention is sometimes there will be you will be sort of a payoff where you'll need to find things that are optimal for the game, and you'll have to sort of trade that for visuals sometimes, and vice versa. And that's something that I had to do recently. Although I fell in love with the old grass, it looked a bit more beautiful and the wind was really good. The trade-off just wasn't there. If it cost me a couple more frames, it would have been okay. But it was affecting the game too much. I had to figure out a different way of making it work. I still haven't ticked off the grass fully. I'm going to keep working on it and try and make the grass look better and better and a bit more dynamic. And you can see some of the birch trees here that I sort of played around with. The birch trees aren't fully complete yet, but they're sort of getting there. But yeah, the grass will need a bit more work. So looking to where I'm sort of running around here, I've tried to sort of build a bit more of the coastlines as well. And a lot of it's texture work too. You can see the building's not working at the moment, so let's forget about that. But the texture work on the actual terrain, you can see where I've sort of hand painted all the blends of different textures and things, where we have the cliffs and the dirt and all these sort of areas. So a lot of that texture work just takes forever because it's got to be sort of perfect. But another thing I've been doing is when I talk about making little scenes and little sort of areas, like you can see this cool little cove area that I've just started building. I've always liked parkour. Talking about what I was talking about earlier, I want to make a whole bunch of little parkour sections and fun little things that are just sort of hidden Easter eggs in the game. So if I sort of jump up here, jump onto this ledge, I'll see if I can get it this time, and you do a big, there we go, sweet, got it. You can actually jump onto this tree. I definitely won't get it first go, yeah, I didn't get it. But you can actually jump onto that tree there and stay. There's a little invisible platform on the tree, and that's something where I can put a collectible or some sort of cool hidden thing later in the game. So that's something I definitely want to do everywhere throughout this game, is just have a ton of cool little collectibles and parkour things and all sorts of things to do. I don't know if any of you ever played like Call of Duty. I remember sort of the glory days were playing Modern Warfare 2 and with my friends spending hours like parkouring and trying to get out of the maps and break the game. And it was just really, really enjoyable. So I guess having played a lot of games, I'm trying to sort of inject a lot of different fun aspects that I've had from games that I've played. because, you know, this game's a reflection of me and what I like in games, and that's just one of the fun little sort of quirks that I like. So, look, I hope you enjoyed the video. It's been, although I got through all that pretty quickly, it took a long time to do. It's been a long time coming, making all those assets from scratch. Like, it takes a long time. But yeah, I'm going to Japan for 2 weeks, so I will sort of have a couple videos scheduled. But if you haven't noticed, I've been uploading a bit more recently, and that's going to continue. I'm going to be uploading every single week from now on, and trying to keep you guys a bit more updated with my game. So this video is going to go live when I'm in Japan. So hello from Japan. Yeah, if you stayed this long till the end of the video, yeah, just write Japan in the comments, and then I can know who my true viewers are. So, look, I hope you have an amazing day, everybody. Hopefully, it's not minus 10 degrees where you are, because that's where it is, where I'm going to be right now. And right now, I'm recording this video in Brisbane, and it's 35 degrees. So, it's going to be a bit of a shock for me. So, as always, have an amazing day. It's been Julian or Flo here. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.